Hello guys, welcome to the next video tutorial on C programming for beginners, and in this video we will see what are structures in C and how we can use structures in C. So the first question is, what is a structure in C? In C, a structure is a collection of different variable which are grouped together to make some logical group. So for example, I want to make a structure of a student. There is no direct variable I can give to define the attribute for a student, so that I know that this attribute is for some particular student. There can be many students, and there can be I have to declare so many variables, and in the end when I have so many variables I can get confused which variable is assigned to which student. So structures make it very easy to define if you have a group of variable to which you want to bind in a logical group. So let's see how we can declare a structure in C. So structure, you just need to use struct keyword in to define a structure, and then the name of the structure, for example student, and then comes these curly braces. I just need to change the fonts. So then comes these curly braces here, and then inside these curly braces you can define your variable. So what attributes the students can have? He can have his ID, his or her. So this ID can be an integer, so I will define int ID. Then a student can have his name, so I can define string as a name. So string, for example char pointer, I can define it as a name. Hello guys, welcome to the next video tutorial on C programming for beginners, and in this video I will teach you what is a structure in C and how we can use structures in C. Now what is a structure? Structure is a group of variable which you can group together to make a logical variable. For example, you want to define some database of some student, or you want to create some record of a student or some students. It will be very difficult to define variables to each student, and then if in the end if you have many variables containing the student record, it can get a little bit messy. But we can make this situation better by using structure. So structure is a logical group of variables. So to define a structure, for example, I want to define a structure of student. To define a structure, we use a keyword called struct, and then we give the name of the structure. For example, I give the name to my structure as student, and then comes curly braces, and inside these curly braces you define your attributes for this student structure. Okay, so for example, what attributes or what traits a student can have? A student can have his ID, which can be integer. Student ID can be integer, so I define integer. Then student have his name, which can be character, and student can have his score or marks, which can be in percentage, and percentage we will define it as a floating point. So he can have these three attributes or these three traits, right? Now for each student we can define this a different instance of a structure, and we can use structure to make a logical group of these three variables for a particular student. Okay, now once you define this structure, this kind of structure, you can use it in your main function like this. So whenever you define a structure, you need to call it inside your main function. And how you can call it? You can just copy the name of the structure and struct keyword itself, and then give the name to this student structure, right? So for example, you give this student structure name record 1. For example, this indicates the student record of student 1, for example, right? Now this is the variable you define for this student structure. So this can be treated, the student can be treated as a data type in this case, and structure is a keyword which tells that it's a student data type which is a structure. Okay, and this is your variable name. Just think it like this. Okay, now whenever you want to assign some value to this record, which is a instance of the student structure, instance means one part of this student, then how you can do it, you can just do it simply like this. So you just need to take this record, and you, for example, you want to assign id to this record, you just need to use this dots separator, and you will be able to see the member variables of this student structure. You can see automatically in code blocks. Okay, so these id, name and percentage are called the members of the structure. Okay, and you can call them using this dot separator or after this variable. Okay, so for example, student id is equal to 1. For example, I have assigned 1 to record 1, and student name, so I will once again use this dot name, and then I can assign any name to this student. But if you remember in the last video when I teach you what are strings, I taught you how you can copy a string to a character array, right? Or you can assign or copy a string. You can just use a function called strcpy, which is string copy, and then you can use this thing. So the first argument of this function is the destination where you want to assign the value, and second argument is the value itself. For example, the value is John. So basically what we have done is we have assigned John as a value to this name variable, record.name variable. Okay, and the third, we can assign percentage like the same. So record 1 dot percentage is equal to, for example, 70.20. Okay, these are the percentage scored by him. Okay, now once you assign these values to the structure, or use to the instance of the structure, you can access these values also using your print function. So just use print, and then you can just call, for example, id. So you can just write id is equal to percentage d, and then you can just give the space and just write name is equal to percentage s, and just gives a little bit more space, and then just write percent is equal to percentage f. Okay, so this is for holding the decimal value, this is for holding the string, this is for holding the floating point, right? And we will give the line break here also, and then we will assign, or we can access the values which we have assigned just by like same as we have assigned the value. So record.id will give you the id, record.name will give you the name, and record1.percentage will give you the percentage. Okay, like this. So let's break this print into few lines so we can see it easily. Okay, so we can access these values like this. Okay, so let's try and run the program, and hopefully it doesn't contain any errors. And you can see id is equal to 1, name is equal to John, and percentage is equal to 70.1999, which is 70.20, right? So in the same way, you can define different instance of the student structure, and you can maintain a record of the student. For example, you define some different structure. So I will just copy the same and paste it below to define a second record, and this record I will name it as record 2. Everywhere I will just change it record 2, record 2, record 2, here also record 2. So I will just copy record 2 for the student 2. Okay, and the id now is 2, the name will change, for example Mark, and the percentage also changes, for example 91.30. okay, and now we have two records of the student, student with student id 1 and student with student id 2. So logically we have two record for students, right? Run the program, and now it says id is equal to 1, name John, percentage 70 point something, id is equal to 2, name Mark, percent 90.1 point something, right? So in this way you can define as many instances of this structure as you want, and you can create a record for the student. Or so this is one way of using structure. There is one more way of using structure in C, and this is by directly giving the name to your student structure. For example, I can just delete this line from here, and instead of giving the name to this student variable here, I can just give the name at the declaration of this student structure. For example, record, right? And then this record will be my variable name. Okay, so the student is the structure, and record will be the variable name of your structure. Okay, and then you can use this record to access the value or assign the values to this record. For example, here you can just replace record like this, and it will work like same. So you don't need to declare this record inside your main. This can be also declared like this, and this will be your variable name, and you don't need to declare inside your main. And when you run the program, it will run fine, it will give you the output. So in this way you can use structures in C, and try using structures by yourself, and try practicing using structures, and you will be good to go. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment and subscribe, and bye for now.